Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next The Dawn of Yangchen chapter analysis video. This one's going to be for chapter 33, which is called Traces. So, we continue on directly from the previous chapter. It is a Yangchen and Mama Ayunarak chapter. This one is a bit shorter, but it's them getting on the trail of the unanimity basically. They've shared their information, and so they decide to actually investigate the area of basically what Mama Ayunarak is down here to report. These spiritual disturbances, they sort of connect the dots that like, yeah, this is probably like what we're down here to deal with, and they figure it's connected. Now, so that means they basically find out here, based on a few other things, the idea that we know from before that Kalyan said that the weapon was tested in the south. So that is a direct confirmation. They find this test site, and so we get a key piece of evidence in terms of what unanimity is. And that is this kind of cliff where we see the results of what the weapon actually does. And it's a great piece of evidence ahead of the next chapter, the next couple of chapters, where the reveal slowly kind of comes out. I figured it out in the next chapter, but I would say a bunch of people basically figured out over the next 1, 2, maybe even 3 chapters if it took you a little bit longer. It gets pretty clear. I'll probably be just flat out saying what it is in the next chapter because I feel the pieces are basically right there, and it will make the discussions more interesting to know what it is. So we're getting so close to finding out what unanimity is, and I really like what is done in this chapter. So we jump in here. They've obviously shared all their information together. So Mama Ayunarak now knows about unanimity, the incident with the Shangs, and what the threat here actually is. So she asks, "What is the name of the ship that you think the unanimity is on?" "The Sunbeam." And she's like, "Okay, do you trust this source where you got this information from?" So she's basically saying, do you trust Kavik? Obviously, Mama Ayunarak doesn't know that Kavik gave Yangchen this information, but it's interesting that Ayunarak knows Kavik. And Yangchen is like, yes, I do, which is a real, gut punch of a moment because she does truly trust Kavik. That's why she's down here on his information, but we know he has betrayed her and fed her wrong information. So it's a valid part of the investigation, but obviously Kavik has much more up-to-date information and has led her astray here. So they decide that, okay, let's go to the area where your spiritual disturbances were reported. Ayunarak is kind of like, shouldn't you sleep? You've been up for so long. But Yangchen is like, nope, we're doing this right now, and you know how I feel about waiting. She wants to be active as the Avatar, and she has to prove that point to Mama Ayunarak here. So they both hop on Nujian and head off more inland on Big Island to the site where these disturbances were reported. So basically what happens here, they go inland, it's all sort of snowy. They go up to basically the top of this sort of hill and land on top of it. And then they're looking sort of down the mountain, and they can see all of these, do you see these depressions that are all regularly spaced out, and there's these basically impact craters all along the side of the mountain. So they can't quite fully see them yet. They get a sense that, okay, there's something here. So Yangchen is just like, okay, you stay back. She basically dives off the mountain, goes into the Avatar state, and uses it to clear all the snow off the mountain so they can just see the surface of the kind of hill mountain kind of that they're looking at. They then get a really, really good look at basically what the situation is. The ground was spotted with craters. The largest holes were as broad as houses and half as deep. They were all round. It says here, inside the bowl, chunks of gravel had melted and blackened. The clay underneath had been scooped out by some great force. A meteor? She thought a meteor would have fit closely, but there were no lumps of ore nearby, no deep impact bores in the ground, and the normal signs of bending, even when fire and earth clashed, didn't mesh with her surroundings. So Ayunarak kind of comes over and is kind of like, you can see this better from a distance. So they sort of fly out so they get a better view from a distance, and they can see that the way that it's laid out is that it's basically this like targeting range. They can see that there's like chunks of kind of reflective rock laid out at specific points, basically to mark distance, and that's where a lot of the kind of craters are there. It's clear that they were testing range and size of crater impact on whatever it was that the weapon actually is. And they're like, those are distance markers. Siege engineers in the Fire Nation use them to test slings, crossbows, projectile throwers. Earthbending soldiers practice on fields like this one when they can get sorted by power and accuracy. But there's no war machine in the Fire Nation, in the Four Nations, that could have made these craters. And they don't look like the result of any kind of bending I've ever seen. Mama says, I can't explain everything. I can only tell you what I think. And right now I think this entire place is a target range. So immediately you kind of think, okay, based on everything we know right now, this is something that can fit in like 3 big kind of containers. And that's what we've been told. It is something that can be shipped by ship from one place to another. And it was tested down south and is some sort of a projectile-based weapon that has long range, can be adjusted, I suppose, for range, and makes what seems to be like small meteorite impacts. Like, what is this? It's really crazy, because initially I was thinking like, is it some sort of a like cannon? Even though it doesn't quite fit the kind of technology of the Yangchen era, where I know in Kyoshi era it's sort of a notable thing that like some people do have like single shot guns. Basically, that's what like the RPG tells us. The idea that there's this giant cannon, I think, can still work because it's like a specialized project. It's like one weapon that a lot of research has gone into. So I'd understand the idea of like a scientifically advanced, high-tech kind of cannon maybe in this era could work, especially if there's some sort of secret behind it. I was maybe thinking, is it just some sort of like giant catapult thing that seems a little low tech? So it feels like, is this going to be some sort of a thing where like it's the discovery of like you know some sort of like propulsion system for like a weapon or a cannon? That's my initial thoughts on it based on this. I'd be very surprised if anyone managed to figure out what the situation was right at this moment. I'm sure if you go into this with the right perspective, it's maybe on your mind what it actually is, but to fully just commit to this is what it is and feel very confident about it at this point, I think it feels like a little bit of a stretch. But like I said, it takes only like 1 or 2 pages, I think, in the next chapter, at least for me, to confirm exactly what it was. And by the end of the next chapter, I was kind of like, yeah, this is exactly what it is. And so in the following chapter, when we got a specific moment, that's what doubly confirmed it to me. So really, really good stuff here. I like the mystery aspect of this, of like these 2 characters coming together, realizing that, oh, wait, this is actually like, these 2 things are connected. And right now, like, Yangchen doesn't like know that like Kavik has lied to her. She feels that, oh, she has actually made some progress in the investigation here, but what's she going to do with it here? But the problem, of course, if we go back to the last time we had a Kavik chapter, Kalyan has put him on the same ship that's heading back to Bin-Ur with Unanimity. So we're going to cut into Kavik right there next to Unanimity. And that's what's so kind of key about what's next, is that Yangchen is making progress with the investigation, but she's way behind. Like, she's down here in the south, and they're basically nearly back up north. So a massive distance to cover here for Yangchen to get back in the game. So that is everything I wanted to talk about in this chapter. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts were on this one, but that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.